How long does it actually take to get really good at drawing or painting? I know, pick me. 10,000 hours, am I right?
Wrong.
What? The 10,000 hour rule has been going around for years now. And for many years, I thought myself that, that rule was actually what it took to get really good at drawing. It's just what you have to do, like you put in your hours and then the results will come. Sounded about right to me, I guess. And I would repeat the same thing when people ask me how long it took artists, to go from 0 to pro. What have I done? Because I've been teaching for a little over 8 years now. And somewhere along the way, I got really interested in the science of learning. Like, how do we learn better? How long it takes? And are there things that we can do to really significantly speed up the process? And while digging into it, I discovered where the 10,000 hour rule came from and how it's been completely misrepresented this whole time. What the heck? The original 1993 study that led to this rule was conducted by this guy, and it's that very specific study that showed it took gifted violinists 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to reach a virtuoso level, complete mastery. Over the years, it just got twisted by other authors, and it eventually entered the general culture that it should take anyone 10,000 hours to become great at any skill. So it's kind of been like this long telephone game where a lot got lost in translation. So if we undo that telephone game and go back to the original study, still, it might seem to imply that to become really good at anything, you'd have to spend a crap ton of hours of deliberate study, right? Also, what the heck is deliberate study? More on that later. And while the study might have been kind of true for violinists, the rule doesn't seem to apply to most other skills, as newer research has shown. So we don't need 10,000 hours to get good at art. All right, so how long then? Well, less than 1% of that is what you actually need. Less than 100 hours.
What?
Kind of a big difference there. Now, there's one key factor in that initial study that was correct, and that is the type of study that you should focus on. Most people just practice regular study, like half focused, half distracted. Nobody really teaches us how to study, so we just study the way that feels kind of normal to us. And apparently that's very inefficient. The other type of practice you should actually aim for is called deliberate practice. And out of anything from the original research, this is probably the most important part that nobody paid attention to. Deliberate practice is the secret. The quantity of study matters, of course, but it's almost irrelevant compared to the quality of the study. 100 hours of quality study will easily beat 10,000 hours of mindless practice. The core finding from expertise research isn't about time spent, it's about how that time is used. Deliberate practice, not mindless repetition, is what drives improvement. And this kind of reminds me of this Nerd Forge video.
In this video, I'll be trying to teach my fiance, Hansi, how to draw in 100 hours.
Where he spent 100 hours practicing to draw starting as a beginner to see how good he could get in that time. Now, he did have some structure to his studies, and the end result was really impressive. But if he actually practiced deliberately the entire time, he could have seen even better results, like significantly better. And well, here's what makes practice deliberate, because it's more than just setting your phone to do not disturb mode. Deliberate practice includes 4 specific things. Number 1, setting specific, challenging goals just beyond your current ability level, but just outside of your comfort zone. 2, you need to get immediate feedback on your performance, usually from a teacher or someone with more experience. 3, you need to be making targeted adjustments based on that feedback, correcting your mistakes. And 4, you have to repeatedly practice weak areas until they become strength. That's deliberate practice. Those 4 things are what makes it work so well. But that's only half of the story though. To become great at drawing in dozens of hours rather than thousands, you need deliberate practice, and you need to be investing that time learning the right thing. But what are those exactly? Well, I have a ton of videos on the channel, going over different things, so definitely have a look around. I've been doing this for a while, so I have a pretty big library, but if you're looking for even more structure, that can be kind of missing on YouTube. If you're looking for a 1 to 2 year plan to become great at drawing anything you can imagine, you might want to check out my art school program with the link in the video description. I want to plug this now because the Christmas sale is almost over, so don't miss out on your chance to get the program and access our private Discord community at the cheapest it'll ever be. The price is going up in January as I have a lot of nice additions and updates planned for 2025. And hey, you can even purchase the program as a gift, so check it out. The holiday sale ends in just over a week. All right, so the 10,000 hour rule is wrong. Hopefully the myth is properly debunked now. Instead, you just need a few hours of deliberate practice, and you need to be practicing skills that will help you get better and learn faster than most. So more specifically, to get good at art in a few dozen hours instead of thousands, here are the exact steps that you should follow. The first thing you should do is to deconstruct the skill you're trying to learn. Think of learning a language for a second. Do you open the dictionary and just start learning every word? In English, there's nearly 200,000 of them. No, right? You'll start by learning simple words and short sentences that you might use often in a conversation. There are tens of thousands of words, but it's been shown that if you only know about 800 words, you can understand about 80% of a typical conversation. So do that with every skill you start to learn. Find that little bit of something that will allow you to do a lot with it. You'll feel like you're leveling up a lot faster, and that's motivating. A lot more motivating than thinking you need to invest 10,000 hours. Most of what we ever do as artists is incredibly repetitive. Learn those few things that will help you a lot. You know, some of you might already be familiar with the Pareto principle. It's the idea that learning 100% of something is usually a waste of time. Instead, you should focus on learning 20% of the material that will allow you to create 80% of the results. And it's something you can do for every skill. Like if you're trying to draw characters like I am here, the skills you should focus on would be gesture drawing, some basic anatomy, practicing to draw simple faces and hair. That's pretty much it. Like, no need to learn about the entire anatomy of the body or how to draw super dynamic poses or perspective, coloring. You really don't need any of that. And it's good to keep in mind, the more specific your study is, the more improvement you'll see. Kind of makes sense, right? Putting more eggs in one basket rather than spreading yourself thin, learning a bunch of different things. The next thing is to practice deliberately. We all get distracted all the time. So the second thing you should do is to remove as many distractions as possible. Remove those things that typically help you procrastinate. Your ability to focus on studies and practice without distraction will be a huge factor in how fast you'll be able to learn new skills. And here I'm talking about the part in art where you're actually learning something new, right? Like learning new muscles or learning how to construct a mannequin for the human body. We're talking about studies here, not just drawing for fun. That's separate. And practicing deliberately also means getting feedback as often as possible, like we've seen, and making adjustments to how you practice based on that feedback. And then finally, practice at least 100 hours. You'll see results much sooner, of course, but 100 hours would be a great ballpark to see drastic improvements. And you'll always see the most results in those first 100 hours. This is the learning curve. Like with any skill, at first you'll pick up a lot of really important knowledge if you deconstruct the skill properly and practice deliberately. But the more you know, the more you practice, you can see the curve tends to flatten out. The more knowledge you have, the less significant it becomes. You know, it's like your first birthday and then your second birthdays. They're important because you've had so few. But when you get to like your 55th birthday or something like that, like who cares? They're not as significant anymore, right? It's what we saw in the first step. Like if you learn roughly 800 English words, that will allow you to understand 80% of a typical conversation. Then the remaining 10,000 plus words in the dictionary will only allow you to understand the remaining 20%. It's a lot more work for a lot less results. You get diminishing returns. So don't waste your time on that too much. You can, obviously, but understand that it'll slow you down. So you want to practice deliberately and focus on those few skills that will benefit you the most. That's how you get ahead in this crazy competitive art industry. Or that's how you learn the skills to draw spicy fairy, your own original characters, draw your own manga, whatever it is you want to do with your art. That's how you get there fast. And also, Merry Christmas. We have one more video left for 2024, so I hope I'll see you all next week for it. Oh, by the way, you can actually get the exact same brush that I've used for all of these drawings here with the link in the video description. Just a little freebie for Christmas. And make sure you also check the link in the description to grab my art program while it's almost half the price. And what have I done?